This is Sanne Moonemans from Invezz, and we are really excited for this exclusive interview with Ben Gagnon. Is that how I say it?
Gagnon, but that's okay.
Gagnon, the Chief Mining Officer at BitFarms. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Could you please introduce yourself, BitFarms in general, for those that are not familiar with it, and what your position is in the company?
Sure. So my name is Ben Gagnon. I'm the Chief Mining Officer of BitFarms, where I'm in charge of general mining, economics, strategy, and operations. BitFarms is one of the largest publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies globally. We currently operate 9 different facilities across 3 countries, and we use over 33,000 different Bitcoin mining machines to power about 1.5% of the Bitcoin network. So we're a very, very large portion of the network. We're growing quite rapidly. And what we do as a public company is we take all of that Bitcoin that we mined, or nearly all of the Bitcoins that we mine, and put them on our balance sheet every day so that investors can get liquid exposure to Bitcoin mining through their traditional portfolios and tools.
And could you briefly explain to your viewers how the mining process works?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one without a very simple answer. But generally speaking, if you're somebody with some Bitcoin and you want to send some Bitcoin, you have to create a Bitcoin transaction. What miners are doing all over the world is we're listening out for those transactions. And so when we see those transactions, we start aggregating them into what we call a block of transactions. And generally speaking, we can fit up to 10,000 of these transactions in a single block, and we process that about every 10 minutes. And so you can think of us like a clearinghouse for payments or something else. You want to send your Bitcoin, the payment processing center has to clear it out, and that's what the miners are doing. About every 10 minutes, we're processing another, up to 10,000 transactions, and then we get paid in transaction fees for doing that service.
And obviously, that's what you guys are mainly doing. What would be your current hash rate in terms of public numbers?
So we're just over 3 exahash, which puts us right there at that 1.5% of the network, with the network currently around 200.
And how far are you pushing the benchmark for this in the near future, and which aspects are taken into account when setting these goals?
Yeah, so we're growing quite rapidly. And one thing that a lot of people, I think, don't really understand about our industry is that just because we can grow our internal operations maybe 10% doesn't mean that we're going to get 10% more revenue. So what we need to do is we need to outpace the market. If we grow 10% and the market only grows 5%, right, we're going to grow our revenue. But if we grow 10% and the market grows 20%, our revenue is actually going to decrease. And so our goals around growing the company and growing our hash rate are really focused around what we believe the entire network and the entire industry is capable of doing and achieving. And we're trying to outpace that growth. So this year, we've set a goal for 8 exahash by the end of 2022. We started the year at just over 2, and we're currently sitting at just over 3, with more facilities under construction and more miners on the way.
And of all the tokens that BitFarms mines, you hold most, if not all of them. Why is this, and does it change in the future?
Yeah, so we've mined a lot of different coins in the past. Right now, all we do is we mine Bitcoin, and we do hold most of those because we really do believe in Bitcoin's long-term potential. Looking out on the price of Bitcoin and where it can be over the next 6 months, 12 months, 24, 36, 48, really what we see is Bitcoin price is very undervalued for those long-term projections. And so if we can keep those Bitcoins on our balance sheet for longer, that means that we're going to be making more money as a company. Bitcoin's a very unique asset where it really doesn't cost us to hold the asset on our balance sheet. We have quite high gross mining margins. Our last publicly disclosed mining margins were 84%. And so, the amount of Bitcoins that we need to actually sell to fund our OPEX is relatively small. We're able to do creative, financing strategies in order to fund our OpEx in other ways so that we can hold on to that long-term potential, and that 84% gross mining margin will be even larger by the time we actually sell some Bitcoin.
And obviously the number of Bitcoins are going to be mined is infinite. Once that day comes, does your company's business plan extend to that day?
So, the Bitcoin mining is expected to continue until about 2143. So, as a company, we do not have plans that far out. But looking at where the industry is right now, where it's going, we do plan to be around for a very long time. We are working on building the infrastructure of this future economy. And it's all going to be data center driven, and the demand for that compute power is only going to grow. So we plan that according with current economics and network growth assumptions and everything else. But unfortunately, with the industry only being around about a little over 10 years, it's pretty hard to forecast our business plan out, into the next 100.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And whilst BitFarms really focuses on the sustainability aspect of how you are mining Bitcoins, what other aspects set you apart from other mining facilities?
Yeah, that's a great question. BitFarms has been around for a very, very long time. And, I think what we're focusing on is really trying to build a trustable operation. There's a very big difference between deploying 1 or 2 miners in your garage and deploying the kinds of miners that we're deploying at scale. By the end of the year, it's going to be close to 80,000 miners that we're planning to have deployed. And that requires an insane amount of logistics and planning and execution. And I think one of the things that really sets apart BitFarms from some of the other companies is our ability to execute over time. And we've shown since our founding in 2017, we're a company that has been able to grow, expand, raise capital, allocate capital efficiently, survive a halving, survive multiple bear markets, and actually deliver on our targets. So this is something that I think really separates people out, because it's very easy to go out there and buy and order, tens of thousands of miners if you have the money, but plugging them in, making them operational, keeping them operational, that's a very, very different game. And that's where we excel.
And your main facility is based in Quebec, Canada. Can you explain what's so attractive about the region?
Yeah, so Quebec is a fantastic energy market for us because it has a ton of hydroelectric resources. This is something that was built up in the province throughout the last 100 years or so in order to power heavy industry. So this is stuff like old iron ore mines, aluminum smelting, paper mills, timber mills, that kind of industry, which has largely left the province, gone out to other countries, other markets, newer, more efficient facilities. But the hydroelectric dams that powered all this old industry is still there. The water still flows, the power is still being generated, but the industrial demand is gone. And so that means that for us, we have huge amounts of hydroelectric, clean energy resources for us to tap into with not a lot of industrial demand to compete against, which means that there should be a great willingness in the province to work with us and sell that power to us, because it's just such an overabundance in supply. You either sell it to a group like us, you sell it to the United States for half the price and a huge amount of the transmission losses, or you don't sell it at all. And working with Bitcoin mining companies like BitFarms is the most profitable solution to maximize the utility of that hydroelectric resource.
And on top of your facility in Canada and the United States, you're looking to expand further into South America. What are your motivations for this?
Yeah, so Bitcoin has a big part of its fundamental, ethos is that it's decentralized, and part of that is the physical location of all these miner assets. When they're spread out over huge amounts of the world, that means that there's less risk of them being disrupted by whether it's an environmental situation, a political situation, an economic situation, just an accidental, outage, something like that, by spreading those resources around the world. And so this is something that we take very, very, believe very deeply in here at BitFarms is this decentralized ethos. We are one of the few companies that actually is working to expand across a huge variety of facilities instead of centralizing in one or two. We believe that's going to give us a great risk reduction over time. It also gives us the ability to, take advantage of smaller pockets of energy, which are very cost effective, that some other parties just, might want to pass on. So that's a very different strategy for us, is that decentralized aspect.
And obviously, as we all watch the news, global conflicts and political tensions are on the rise everywhere, and regulations across the world are getting tighter. How does this impact you, and how do you anticipate and deal with this?
Yeah, these political regulations and geopolitical situations, seem to be coming up more and more frequently over time. For us, when we're planning our mining operations, we're really investing in a Bitcoin mining cash flow. And so we know that this Bitcoin miner that we're buying today and putting on the rack brand new is going to work for about 5 to 7 years. And so when we're looking for new facilities and new opportunities, we have to take the jurisdictional question into mind, as well as the geopolitical risk, because we're looking for those places where we're going to be comfortable operating for at least 5 to 7 years, and hopefully significantly beyond that. I think that's really led us to focus in on the Americas. Primarily, our operations are in North America because we have significantly less legal and regulatory risk over here. But I think there's also some pockets of South America which are quite interesting, and other places around the world which also give us these same sort of legal protections and shield from geopolitical events. But absolutely, it's something that we have to take into consideration when we're considering any new opportunity.
And how important is it to have easy access to cleaner renewable energy sources?
I think it's very important. For us, this hydropower has been a strategic part of our business since day one. As soon as we started operating in the province of Quebec in 2017, we've been using hydroelectric power since the beginning. So we've mined well over 15,000 Bitcoins in the company's history using only hydropower. And this is something that, not only has the environmental clean benefits, but there's the economic benefits of using sustainable power as well. When we don't have so many cost inputs going into our fuel source, that means that we're less exposed to inflationary pressures over time, and we're going to be a lower cost producer in the future. So as we're taking advantage, like I said, about the situation with all this existing hydroelectric infrastructure, these are dams that have already been built, have already been financed and paid for. They're existing assets, they're depreciated assets, and really they just require a little bit of labor and some small maintenance. There's not a lot of inflationary pressures on that price over time, which means that we feel like we're going to be very profitable and sustainably profitable for that, at least that 5 to 7 year period that we know the machines are going to be viable for.
Oil giant Exxon is using leftover natural gas to fuel Bitcoin mining facilities. Do you consider them a direct competitor?
Bitcoin mining is a very special industry where, although we are directly competing for market share, the market is designed for there to be zero barriers to entry and to have free, open competition. I absolutely welcome Exxon coming into the space. Taking advantage of flared gas is a very, very powerful tool for Bitcoin, especially as we work against all these environmental challenges. The flared gas situation is something that is a given. It's a default. You cannot pull the crude oil out of the ground a lot of the times without getting this associated gas, and there's no ability to sell it. This is an ability to reduce the emissions beyond what they already are and have a direct private incentive through the Bitcoin mining industry to reduce those emissions. Looking at all the technology that we have in the world today, Bitcoin mining, especially on the flared gas mitigation side, is really the only technology we have in the world to incentivize people to reduce their emissions without a government subsidy. And in that way, it's an incredibly powerful tool.
And one of the most polarizing issues in mainstream media regarding Bitcoin is the narrative that mining is devastating for the environment. What do you think of the narrative which industry insiders seem to push back on?
This industry has been fighting this narrative for quite some time. Unfortunately, it's very easy to put out some terrifying, horrifying figures and just have people run with it. But unfortunately, they're not really backed by any sort of, real science. There are two primary sources for most of this information, and their models are incredibly weak. So there's been reports basically since Bitcoin has been around that Bitcoin mining is going to be bad for the environment, or is currently buoying the environment. We have reports, I think back in 2017, there was a research paper that said by 2021, Bitcoin mining would have already raised global temperatures 2 degrees. I think it's a lot of fear mongering. And it's coming from people that really don't understand, contextually what we're doing with electricity, with energy resources, how we're actually working to improve environments, improve communities, improve the grid stability. I mean, this is something that is a win-win-win for everybody, but I think it takes a lot of education and a lot of effort on the parts of mining companies like BitFarms to actually get that message across to people. And instead, it's very easy for people to just click on the fear-mongering headline.
Yeah, of course. That's all my questions for today. Do you have any other thoughts or comments you'd like to share with our viewers?
Yeah, just one final one. People think about Bitcoin mining as an industry that really is just going to get smaller every couple of years with the halving. But the reality is that the Bitcoin mining industry today is the biggest it's ever been. It's the most valuable the industry has ever been, and it's the most secure that Bitcoin has ever been. And companies like BitFarms are doing a really, really important job, not only in terms of improving the security of the network, but also making our operations transparent and visible to people, so people start to actually understand what's going on with Bitcoin mining. There's so much out there that is factually incorrect or misleading or taken out of context. And it's really skewing what people's opinions are of what we do as an industry. I think it's important for people to understand that this industry is a very important part of how we fix things, of how we improve the electrical grid, how we improve people's lives all around the world. And this is something that they're going to have to open their minds to and start seeing the true benefits here in the real situation.
Thank you so much for your time today, Ben.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.